Good day everyone, we're from Group 5 and we're here in front of you to tackle about our topic, feeders and storage silos. Feeders is the device mounted at the outlet of the storage units such as bins, bunkers, silos, or hoppers. These are used to control and meter the flow of bulk materials from a storage unit to meet the specified discharge flow rate. Feeders decide the magnitude of load on handling system. So there are two categories of feeders. The first one is volumetric feeder. It discharges a volume of material as a function of time. And the second one is gravimetric feeder. It uses a loss in way technique. So in here we can see two figures. The first figure, it shows how volumetric feeder works, which uses a gain in way batching. So in here, to use a volumetric feeder, the user must know the rate at which the ingredient must be dispensed into a process and how much the volume that the way represents. So this is important that the user must know this because there will be no computer that will guide the user of how much the dispense flow rate is. So it is his job to know and solve this stuff. So to set the rate in a volumetric feeder, the user turns on the feeder auger and begins catching. So it is here in a volumetric feeder, it uses a catching sample method. So it samples in a container for a time period. So after each catch, the user weighs the sample, and then if the sample is not fit for the ingredient that the user wants, the user can adjust the auger speed. So in here, he or she adjusts the auger speed until the feeder delivers the correct amount of ingredients into the sample container that he wants. So the sampling process must be repeated each time if there is a change in bulk in density, and also in the change in the ratio of the ingredients in the process. So here in the next figure, we can see how gravimetric feeder works. So it uses loss in way batching. So in here, gravimetric feeder is much more advanced than volumetric feeder because there will be a computer that will guide the user in this process. So the user can utilize a computer and a load cell that continuously records the weight of the feeder, its contents. So in here, the user can just input the given dispensing rate, and the computer can automatically calculates the rate and begins the process, the releasing process. So in here, there will be a scanner that will help in scanning whether or not the gravimetric feeder dispense the right dispensing rate. So in here, there are advantages of using gravimetric feeders. So these advantages are it can be self-adjusting or self-calibrating, which can be observed because there will be a computer that will guide the user. There will be a 100% control over your product quality. It can be easy to operate. There will be monitoring and reporting options available. There will be automatic detection of material supply interruptions. So if there is a certain particular interruption, the feeder can detect this because there is an automatic detection. However, the user can still use volumetric feeder. It depends on how much money or budget he or she can afford. If he can afford a gravimetric feeder, it is much more good than the volumetric feeder. However, if he or she cannot afford it, he can just settle for volumetric feeder. It's just that he needs the user or the controller of this feeder to solve and calculate the dispensing flow rate.
Types of feeders. First is the rotary feeder or rotary valve, also known as rotary airlocks or rotary valves. It is widely used in industrial and agricultural applications as a component in a book specialty handling system. It functions as separating a pressure differential while allowing material to pass through it. Rotary feeders are primarily used for discharge of bulk solid material from hoppers or bins, receivers, and cyclones into a pressure or vacuum-driven pneumatic conveying system. Components of a rotary feeder include a rotor, shaft, housing, head plates, and packing seals and bearings. Rotors have large vanes cast or welded and are typically driven by a small internal combustion engines or electric motors. So the best way of thinking of how it works is imagining a revolving door in a building. It allows material to pass through but maintains the pressure differential between the building and outside. So rotary airlock feeders leak air by their inherent design and are not the most accurate metering device, but it is the only type of valve that will accomplish both at the same time. So next is the vibratory feeders. It is suitable for broad range of book materials. It is being able to accommodate range of particle sizes and for abrasive material. So it is an instrument that uses vibration to feed material to a process or a machine. So vibratory feeders use both vibration and gravity to move the material. Gravity is used to determine the direction whether it is up or down or side to side, and then vibration is used to move the material forward. So they are mainly used to transport a large number of smaller objects because they cannot bear to move the larger objects. Vibrations cannot move larger objects. So a belt weigher are used only to measure the material flow rate, but weigh feeder can measure the flow material and also control or regulate the flow rate by varying the belt conveyor speed. So as for screw feeders, they can deliver dense slurries and dry granular products with great accuracy at a range of operational speeds. Screw feeders are designed to volumetrically measure material from a hopper, container, or silo at a controlled rate. Many screw feeders or feeders use adjustable speed drives to allow the material flow rate to be varied. When screw conveyor works, the screw shaft rotates and the material moves forward along the trough bottom of the conveyor under the push of the blade. Because of the gravity, the material and the friction between the groove wall, the material does not rotate with the blade of the screw conveyor.
Hello, I'm Manuel, and to continue about screw feathers. Screw feathers has two types, the volumetric screw feather and the gravimetric screw feather. As we all know from the start that Mr. Amantiad mentioned, a volumetric feather canoe has the characteristics to discharge a volume of material as a function of time. So in here, this type of screw feather will feed a certain material, and this volume of material will be equal to volume per unit time in order to process. And the concept of this feather relies on some form of displacement principle to create a discharge stream. And the second type of screw feather is the gravimetric screw feather. It has the trait to add weight system and as well as a new control scheme. So if not maparehas ra iyang function sa atong volumetric feather. And take note that a loss in weight is gravimetric. It will directly measures the material's weight to achieve and maintain a predetermined feed rate, and this one measures in weight per unit time. So to sum it up, the difference of the two feathers is crucial only to the part where the quality of the proportioning operations, since ang atong volumetric screw feather is measures in volume per unit time, and ang atong gravimetric feather measures in weight per unit time. And makita man po nato sa picture na same ra sila, diba, og itsura. So next is another type of feather. This one is an apron feather. An apron feather is another type of feather that works by governing material from a hopper to the delivery point at a controlled rate of speed. And this apron feather is sometimes called as apron conveyors. So, dili dapat malibog sa duha kay in a matter of fact, an apron feather is a conveyor. Constructed lang siya into metal rather. And generally, it is used to feed quarry rock into primary crusher. And kasagara is sa mga heavy duty yun siya nga type para ang purpose kay makaya ra ang mga shocks gikan sa mga ore nga nibahog sa machine or sa feather. And these are installed on a slight decline and fit to throw material in downward direction. And ang nakatsada pod sa apron feather, aside sa suitable for heavy duty, is that naa siya ay wear factor from abrasion sa iyang sides, entry, and exit points. But this will have to be maintained. So, kailangan lang yapon siya i-maintain para functional lang yapon ng machine or a feather. And the another type of feather is the chain feather. Kasagara aning chain feather is kanang dili na kay nato siya makita sa market. But traditionally, chain feathers are observed in poultry, and this assured a fast distribution of feed at the desired amount. Despite of the drawbacks, these chain feather are still available because it is an open system, which means that it is easy to clean, easy to control, and as well as easy to maintain. And this type of feathers operates in the principle of interconnectivity. Chain connects each gear, resulting in a smooth conveying process, and it has a series of gears connected into a continuous system by chain. Kasagaran ang kada gear kay naay mga ngipon para makabuhat ta og rotational interface which is connected also sa chain. So next is the bull feather.
Good day. So next is bowl feeders. So bowl feeders are a vibratory mechanism used as a material conveyor and automation equipment that is essential for several manufacturing processes such as automotive. So example sa automotive is mass production sa nuts and bolts. So before ma-install sa sakyanan or before ma-pack ang mga nuts and bolts and any other item, so nakaagi gyud na siya sa bowl feeder, in which dito ma-sort out na sila individually para mas hanay sila mapak kung ipak man gani. Chemical processing, electronics. So electronics example is mass production sa diode. So before ma-install ang diode sa isa ka circuit, so nag-agi gyapon na siya sa bowl feeder, in which dito siya ma-sort out or ma-hanay. Next is food and beverage. So example sa food and beverage is kanang tansan. So kanang tansan is mass production mo gina. So before gyapon na siya mataklob sa botelya, so nag-agi gyapon na siya sa bowl feeder, in which dito gyapon siya ma-sort out. Next is foundry, glass, mining, packaging, pharmaceuticals. So example sa pharmaceuticals is kanang mga tambal, mga tablitas. So mass production mo gina. So before na siya ma-pack or mabutang sa isa ka pad man siguro na kanang, which is nag-consist siya of 8 or 10 tablets sa isa ka pad man siguro. So nag-agi gyapon na siya sa bowl feeder, in which dito gyapon ma-sort out before siya ma-pack sa isa ka pad. So next is the term bowl feeder. It is a general description given to devices that feed parts for multiple and different applications. And basically, a bowl feeder uses mechanical vibrations or centrifugal force to move parts along a conveying track to an assembly line. So next slide. So next slide is the types of bowl feeders. So the first type is cylindrical bowls. So when we say cylindrical bowls, it offers a constant feed but have a restricted capacity. So nganong restricted capacity man? So they are used for very small parts, as can be seen in the image sa kilid. So restricted capacity siya because ang makayan niya nga makarga ng mga item is kanang mga gaan or kanang mga gagmay na mga parts ra. So next type of bowl feeder is conical. So conical bowl feeders or cascade bowl feeders are a type of vibratory bowl feeder with a cone-shaped bowl. So the parts are positioned on the side of the wall or of the bowl to reduce part circulation and abrasion. So this process is used for parts with a simple geometry. So ang best na example sa or best na mga items na pwede magamit ang conical type of bowl feeder is kanang mga pharmaceutical, kanang mga food processing or mga food and beverages na mga item, because ang design nila is they have an open cavity design which is used in clean rooms. So as we see in the picture in the side. Next is step. So step bowl feeders. The feeding track on a step bowl is wider, making it ideal for pre-oriented parts. It has a larger bowl that prevents parts from getting jammed. So ang kaning step bowl feeder is murasag nagahagdanan og porma or nagahagdanan ang iyang design. And lastly is ang polyamide bowl feeder, in which a combination siya sa conical and step bowl feeder. So cylindrical and step bowl feeder. So Polyamide balls are made of plastics, which allows parts to slide more easily and avoids the problem on steel. So, the properties of plastic allows for greater flexibility for shaping of the ball and increase the noise reduction. So, in overall, bisan pa og lahi-lahi ang type sa bowl feeder, but ang ilahang main use is to sort out items para hanay sila before ang packaging bakaha or ini installation sa mga items. That would be all. Thank you.
Now I'm going to talk about storage silos. So the word silos actually came from a Greek word syros, which means a pit for holding grain. So in agriculture, it is used to store grains, food products, and fermented feed called silage. This silage is what we fed on cow, cattle, sheep, and other animal farm. So the silos is also used in chemical industries. So this is where they store plastic resins, cement, calcium oxides, and many other materials like activated carbons and etc. So as you notice, this silos geometric shape is cylinder because it has a metal support and it also comes with a purpose. So other shape is shape of a rectangle or a square. So the reason is this is the silos are constructed using wood, reinforced plastics, reinforced concrete, and stainless steel. So the construction design of silos are dependent on the quantity of product to be stored and the environmental conditions and site conditions. So silos complies with these requirements as this technology makes it possible to control all the necessary aspects to be considered in order to maintain quality, the level of impurities, the grain moisture level, storage temperature, equilibrium, moisture content, insect activity, bacteria, and fungi. So aside from this plausible feature of the storage silos, it also comes with the disadvantages. So first is the storage of fumigants and pesticides in the silos results in intoxication. This actually implies in the chemical industries, and then it results in accumulation of carbon dioxide which causes suffocation while opening it. And then lastly is the decomposition of grains stored in silos results in flammable vapor. The reason of this is that the decomposition of any organic materials um, might become a vapor called methane, and that methane is very flammable gas. And now we are going to proceed to the type of silos. So the first type of silos is the tower silos. It is the most common type of silos. This silos is cylindrical structures, typically to 10 to 90 feet in diameter and 30 to 275 feet in height. So they can be made of many materials such as wood staves, concrete staves, cast concrete, and steel panels. So silos can be unloaded into rail cars, trucks, or conveyors since it is hard to be done if it is manual. So in most silos, gravity causes grain to flow from the top of the silo and out through an opening at the bottom near the center. So as grain flows through the center or the auger, it forms a funnel shape at the top of the silo. And if workers stand at that location, flowing grain can pull them into the mix, causing injury or loss of life.
To continue, we have the second type of silo, which is the bunker silos. So this type of silo are trenches, usually with concrete walls, that are filled and packed with tractors and loaders. The filled trench is covered with plastic tarp to make it airtight, and it is built above ground. It is also more on automated systems for loading and unloading and better wind insulated. So bunker silos in agriculture or large manufacture industries demand bunker silos to store a high quantity of material. And also, it has a critical application of bunker silos where in military. Military adopts bunker silos to deposit and handle missiles. So, dili lang di ay for agriculture ang na-use bunker silos but also in military. And now let's talk about its advantages. So, it holds large capacity. It can be filled with conventional farm equipment. It offers faster unloading rates. The forage quality changes occurs gradually if filled using the progressive wedge. And it is expensive and well suited to very large operations. So, sa iyahang mga disadvantages, it includes higher initial cost. It requires greater care in filling and packing. It will not work for small herds and need usually unloading with tractors and loaders. It look like you need more money to have this kind of silos kay need niya og more trucks to fill in the bunker silos. And the third type is the bag silos. Bag silos are heavy plastic tubes, usually around 8 to 12 feet or 2.4 to 3.6 meters in diameter, and of a variable length as required for the amount of material to be stored. They are packed using a machine made for the purpose and sealed on both sides. And they are unloaded using a tractor or loader or a skid steer loader. And for its advantages, it includes lower capital investment. It has flexible storage system. The feed is easily invented. It can be used for small and large herds. Fewer safety and health hazard inspection, and has lower storage losses. And for its disadvantages, it includes specialized equipment may be needed. Plastic disposal creates extra labor and environmental concerns, and bags must remain intact. Compromised bag can result in a complete loss. And for the last type, we have silage pile. Silage pile is constructed by unloading silage into an elevator and piling up the silage, much as a quarry piles sand or gravel. Silage is a feed that has been preserved by acidification, the result of fermentation in the absence of oxygen. Any green crop with adequate water-soluble carbohydrates, sugars, and the correct moisture content can be cut, chopped, and inside. Suitable crops include corn, beans, and other cereals. It may look like a silos bags, but silage piles is compact in one area and be covered with plastic, tarp, and tires. Unlike the silos bag, na they are packed individually. For its advantages, it is inexpensive, good for short-term storage. And for disadvantages, we have large amount of exposed surface area, greatest loss of dry matters during storage, and more difficult to pack. And also we have beans. Many beans are wide but shorter than silo, and they have more uniform shape than silos do, with a cylindrical body and a peak roof. You will often see ladders and doors on their sides. They include more ventilating elements like roof vents and temperature system than silos because they require adequate airflow. Also, bean shape is either round or squared, and it contains a hollow perforated or screened central shaft. For its application, beans store grain product like barley, soybeans, oats, and much more. It is used for holding dry matter and will keep your goods safe from any contamination. Farmers commonly use beans for human food, food product, animal feed, and fuel. That's all for today. Thank you for listening, everyone. Jalga, annyeong!